Have you ever been to Chihuahua's Learning Commons, tried to look for a seat, but only found tables that were occupied by water bottles, bags and files, while their owners were nowhere to be found? And were you frustrated by the situation that those bags were able to use the tables and computers rather than you yourself? Or have you ever witnessed any student society properties like banners and notice boards being placed or even locked up overnight in Hong Kong open areas such as the University Street? Do you feel uncomfortable when encountering the above situations? Or have you already adapted to the phenomena? You are now watching the video of our capstone project titled Creating Your Place in Hong Kong Social Construction of Place, which is presented by Tong Yat Kiu, Ivana, and Yeung Carla Siobhan. In this video, we will present our major findings and their implications to Hong Kong campus and Hong Kong as a whole. In this project, we hope to understand and examine 3 points. First, the way how students turn school spaces into their own places. Second, the social interactions initiated during place creation. Third, the meanings and values behind the social practices from perspectives of both students and the school. The main theme of our project is about social construction of place. We found that when using space in the university, space will turn into place. Although being a space originally, a place is created from space based on its geographic location, material form and investment with values and meanings. To begin with, Hong Kong campus contains both public and private area. Public area are open areas that are accessible to the general public, like Happy Park and University Street, whereas private area like Chihuahua's Learning Commons and libraries are not open to the public. In the following video, we will illustrate how students transform Hong Kong spaces into personal places under various regulations. As mentioned by Giran in A Space for Place in Sociology, 2000, space and place are two different concepts. The term space refers to an area that is without yet people, practices, representations and objects. Whereas for the term place, it refers to a filling of space with a unique gathering of physical things, meanings and values through human practices and institutions. Place is an agentic player in the game, which has detectable and independent effects on social life. Both physical and semiotic are mutually dependent. The building of place is the process of investing meanings and values. Meanings people assign to places are embedded in historically contingent and shared cultural understandings. These culturally reproduced images of places are arbitrary, but real in their consequences, like emphasizing differences in hierarchy, forming identities, memories and even communities. To study how students make use of space in Hong Kong we have conducted 4 field observations in Hong Kong For private areas, we have chosen Chihuahua's Learning Commons and the main library, while for public area, we have chosen Sun Yat-sen Place and University Street. We have also conducted 8 face-to-face in-depth interviews with student users of Hong Kong space, current or past executive members and members of student societies for deeper understanding on the space usage cultures. Seaters in Hong Kong Library were also interviewed to understand space usage situations from school service providers. We've found that in the campus, despite the presence of formal school policies regulating and defining the use of space, students use different methods to turn university space into individual or student society places. For example, placing their properties in common areas, booking rooms through online systems. When students use space in HKU for individual or group activities, they will implant meanings and values to the space and turn it into a place with its own purpose, culture, social practice and environment. From our observations and interviews, there are many types of spatial practices in HKU. The most common ones include walking in the campus, studying in study areas alone or in a group, chatting or eating in public areas and hosting society booths in public areas. Coupling literatures and our results from interviews and observations, a series of stages could be listed as the process of social construction of space into place. Step 0. We have a piece of vacant land without any buildings or furnitures. For Hong Kong Centennial Campus, it was once a piece of vacant land in Pak Fu Lam without any infrastructures till 2005. Step 1. Object placement. Related authorities. Design the purpose of the vacant land and place buildings with furnitures, facilities, and regulations. In the case of Hong Kong the Campus Development and Planning Committee designs the purpose of space in Hong Kong buildings and facilities are placed with their respective usage purposes. For example, Jockey Club Tower was designed for the Faculty of Social Science. Public consultations like questionnaires and discussion forums on space usage are available for students and staffs. It is important to note that school service providers do have expectations for their facility users, which are students, as quoted from our interview with Hong Kong University Library.
We believe that students are self-disciplined and will read the guidelines carefully when they are using the library's facilities.
On top of their expectations, Hong Kong University Library will post regulations and enforce them regularly to maintain order and safety of their facilities. Step 2. Interpretation of space users. Space's users utilize their space imagery to interpret the space and facilities provided, which they will perform different activities that may or may not comply with the original purpose of space as designed by the authorities. In Hong Kong U, students actively interpret and use the spaces provided by Hong Kong U authorities for different purposes. Taking the space in University Street as an example, in the beginning, they were interpreted by individual or small group users as a site for studying, chatting, or catering. Yet, in the end, it is interpreted as a booth site, where student societies set up their promotion booths. Step 3. Attachment of meanings and values. On top of the regulations offered by school authorities, meanings and values are attached to the interpreted space through social interaction among space users. Space usage cultures are developed, together with Stage 4, where space users practice and reinforce space usage culture unconsciously, whereas new space users learn the culture from current users. The culture is spread widely. It will affect our daily behavior or even nurture habits. The most popular space usage culture in Hong Kong U would be hogging. Hogging refers to the action of students placing physical properties on study tables and leave them unattended for a period of time. It is a common practice among students and can be easily found in libraries or Chihuahua's learning commons. One of our student interviewees, Terry, mentioned that
if I am occupying the study table with a water bottle, that means I am using the table, don't use my space. This is the message I am sending to the others when I do this. I expect others to understand my action.
A message is sent through placement of personal properties. Others interpret the message and behave accordingly. Through these kind of ambiguous social interactions, hogging gradually turned into a space usage culture in Hong Kong U. From the perspective of the space user, the study table is now transformed into a place with meanings and values attached. It is no longer a public space, but a unique private place to the owner. The hogging culture is then spread and reinforced. Freshmen learn and mimic the practice. Some students may even place their properties early in the morning to claim a space in the learning commons. The place will also turn into the base of their daily activities, where they will return constantly during the day. In the final stage, a place is constructed with ownership and self-identity attached with it. This can be illustrated by our interviewee, Kelly. She is a society member of Chemistry Society. When she recognizes the banner, society logo and people inside the booth in Run Shop podium, she knows immediately that it is placed temporarily occupied by Chemistry Society, which also reminds her that she is a member of the society. That is to say, together with the stages mentioned above, a vacant land is now transformed to a place with identity and recognition. It should be noted that the social construction of place is a dynamic process where regulations, cultures, and meanings can be changed. In addition, the bargaining power among space users also shows the hierarchy of power and use of space. While that of authorities will be higher due to their inherited institutional power, space users have limited power. Practically, although the purpose of land is decided by the authorities, space users don't only passively express their opinions in space usage through public consultations, they also actively interpret and utilize the facilities in space provided, plus create and enforce their space usage culture. In the Sociology Capstone Fair on 30th of November, we have demonstrated a mini version of social construction of place by social experiment with guests. We have performed that even with similar facilities built and placed, interpretation of space could be totally different. We, as space users, are the ones who determine the purpose of space. Also, we develop and reinforce the space usage culture at the same time. Our booth is designed in such a way that on one side, a laboratory area for experiment, where people have to wear goggles and lab coats, is constructed, and on the other side, a sharing area for snacking and intellectual conversations is constructed. Guests were required to participate in both sides to experience the process of place construction. From the fair, most of our guests felt strange having an experiment as a form of space imagery in a public area. While they don't expect any science experiments there, they generally accept activities like society booths or art exhibitions in that particular area. Such reactions implied that the nature of activities or event was also considered when we interpret space and utilize facilities around us. As space consumers, we actively evaluate whether our actions match the physical environment. For instance, due to safety concerns, we prefer to conduct chemical experiments in a closed laboratory. Due to the high pedestrian flow of University Street and availability of chairs and tables, societies place their promotion booths on the University Street. So what are the implications of social construction of place in our daily lives? First of all, it explains on space usage conflicts in the university. Taking the space conflict between a state office and bridge club on University Street in Hong Kong U and the space conflict between CUHK and students playing mahjong in the university area as examples, conflicts appear due to the difference between schools' expectation and students' interpretation of space. Apparently, students and schools attach different meanings and values to the space. Second, we may consider Hong Kong as a whole, as a product of place construction. We may ask who decides the purpose and the use of space in Hong Kong, and how does it happen? It is clear that hierarchy of power could be observed in Hong Kong, where ordinary citizens have low bargaining power in deciding the purpose or their share of space, whereas the government, such as the Development Bureau and the Town Planning Board, are the ones responsible for city planning, land trading and facilities building. Though we could voice our opinions through channels like district council members or public consultations, our power in determining space in Hong Kong is very limited. Furthermore, it highlights the ideology of authorities like the government and our school in formulating space usage regulations. In capitalist cities like Hong Kong, buildings of condominiums, office buildings and shopping malls reflect ideologies such as capitalism and material consumption. Since minority cultures and need were often neglected in the process, space conflicts often arise due to insufficient of space and difference in space usage expectations imagery. For example, the demand of space for Filipino domestic workers were disregarded. Therefore, by utilizing their space imagery, they turned central into their own place during weekends and build their own culture and community. Another example is suggested by the former Legislative Council member Yao Ching, that the lack of space for sexual activities causes couples turn other spaces such as cars or parks as their own place for sexual activities. Other minority groups such as queer or ethnic minorities may also suffer from the problem of lack of space due to their insignificance in the society, leading to their low bargaining power in the city. There were several limitations in our study. First, only several types of spatial practices experienced by students in Hong Kong U were included. Second, the sample size and scope of observations and interviews were limited. Areas out of our observation sites might have different situations that were not covered. Besides, space usage rates fluctuate among different times of the day. Our observation targets might also behave differently when they have noticed that they were under our observation. For interviews, majority of interviewees are senior students, and representatives from only 2 societies were interviewed. Last but not least, we would like to express our gratitude to our project supervisor, Professor Martin, who has provided us with comments and feedbacks for our project. In addition, we would like to thank CEDARS, the University of Hong Kong Libraries, and other student interviewees for providing their valuable opinions with us. All in all, social construction of place is a common practice that we treat it as a daily common sense and involve in it unconsciously. Yet, we seldom step back and ask how and why. Now, here's your turn. Have you realized that you are participating in the process of shaping and spreading space usage cultures in daily life unconsciously? How are you constructing place at where you're right now?